I do love a good mystery. And I don't know if that is what you would classify this novel as being, but today we are going to be reviewing The Couple Next Door by Sherry Lapina, and it was one that was recommended to me, and I read it relatively quickly. The wine I have picked for this book is a little bit of a cop-out, and I'm sorry, but it's Sutter Home. It's a sweet red. I'm filming this on a work night, so for so many reasons, did not want to waste any more time picking out a wine. I should really start buying a bunch at a time, but I'm too poor for that. I can't remember if I've reviewed this wine on the Boozy Bookworm or not before, but it's a 5 out of 5. It's sweet, but not too sweet. Basically tastes like adult juice. And with that, let's roll. So, that was so lame. Anyway, the book opens up with our main characters, Anne and Marco, and they are over at their neighbor's house, Cynthia and Graham, for a dinner party. How old do you have to be to have a dinner party? Because, like, my fiance and I have had friends over for dinner, but, like, is that a dinner party or is that just having friends over for dinner? Like, what age does it become a dinner party? Does it become a dinner party when your appetizers aren't potato chips and carrot sticks? I digress. So Anne and Marco are at their neighbor's and they're having dinner, and Anne's just like not really about it for a few reasons. The biggest reason, I suppose, would be that Anne and Marco left their baby, their newborn baby, back at their place. And they are like in these condos that are like connected, or not condos, townhouses in like upstate New York, and they're connected. So by next door, they like really are right next door, but they still left their baby alone at home. And Anne has the baby monitor, but she really didn't want to leave her baby at home. But the issue is her neighbor Cynthia is this gorgeous, tall, I'm never having kids ever woman, and she didn't want the baby at the dinner party. Who does that? And Anne and Marco were not going to leave the baby home alone. They had a babysitter lined up, but the babysitter fell through, and they still insisted on going, or Marco insisted on going, and it would be fine to leave the baby at home. And so she did, and that's why reason 1, she's upset. Reason 2, she's upset is because Cynthia is outwardly flirting with her husband Marco, and she just had a baby, so she's not like, you know, Cynthia all like tall, skinny, and gorgeous, you know, because she just created life in her womb, like a whole human, and so she doesn't look like that anymore, but like, you have a baby, so that's awesome. That is, until it's not awesome. So in convincing Anne to leave their daughter at home, Marco says, hey, one of us will take turns coming back to check on her every 30 minutes, and she'll be fine. And so Anne agrees, and that's that. But here's the issue. When they return home at the end of the evening, the baby is gone. Anne is freaking out. Marco's freaking out. He's checking rooms. Anne's basically throwing up and crying and screaming, and I mean, rightfully so. That would probably be my reaction if I had a baby and it was missing. So they call the cops, right? Because definitely someone stole their baby, because the door was ajar when they got back, and so there's foul play here, right? And so the cops show up, they're doing a whole search, and of course, this is where we meet Detective Rasbach, however you want to pronounce it. That's where we meet him, and he's like convinced it's probably the parents, because I guess in most baby kidnapping cases it's the parents or something like that. So until they can rule that out, he has them as like prime suspects number 1. And the issue is it's like a relatively clean crime scene, right? Like there's no one else's footprints other than the parents, and so he's like very convinced there's no foul play going on here. But then we're finding out all sorts of other pieces of information, right? Like the garage door was open, and the sensor, the light bulb in the backyard that like motion detects, was unscrewed so it wouldn't turn on. And a neighbor had seen in like the back neighboring street, had seen a car drive by with no headlights at approximately the time frame that the baby has gone missing. And so there are things that are adding up and also aren't adding up at the same time, and so we're trying to find the baby, but at this point, Detective Rasbach believes the baby's probably dead, because And so, we're doing all this. The detectives and the cops are like, hey, you should really hold a press conference, beg for your baby back. They do. And they offer a reward. They also give a description. They're like, hey, she was wearing a pink onesie. Then a couple days go by and nothing comes of the press conference. No one is coming up with anything. Then Anne realizes, oh my gosh, no, it wasn't a pink onesie that she was in. It was a mint onesie. And so now Detective Razbatch is even more like suspicious of the fact, because how do you not remember what your baby was last wearing? But Anne and Marco had been drinking wine. Cheers. And they don't really remember everything. So they go and make another press conference and also up the reward because they really want their daughter back, you know? And a lot of stuff happens. Meanwhile, we find out that Cynthia and Marco had gone outside to smoke a cigarette, and then she like seduced him in the backyard, and then Marco is confessing this to Razbatch, and Anne overhears, and so she's all upset, and it's a mess. So then Anne and Marco get a mint green onesie in the mail, and it is Cora's. And so Anne is freaking out because that's, you know, baby. They set up a deal to go pick up the baby, and it turns out to be a trap. Also, before that happens, we find out that Marco, the business he has built on his own, well, not really on his own, with the help of Anne's parents' money, he started this business and it was doing great until it wasn't, and now it's like about to go under. And so he needed money real bad. And so he arranged for his daughter to be kidnapped. So in a way, Razbatch was right in a sense. Because here's the thing, if we remember what I just said, the return of the baby and the money was a setup. And so when Marco shows up to get his daughter, where they had prearranged a pickup drop-off point with this other man, the baby's not there, he gets hit in the head, and they take the money. So now everyone is genuinely freaking out, Marco included, because the guy he was working with was supposed to be in on it and they were going to split the money half and half. But now the baby's missing and he genuinely believes now it could be dead. So now he's panicking, right? And he's like, oh my God. There's your first plot twist. Your second plot twist is now we're going to find out that the guy Marco has been working with is actually a friend of Anne's father. And plot twist number like 3, he's dead. So now no one knows where this baby is. Anne finds a cell phone in the duct of the house that Marco had been using to communicate with the guy, and she thinks it's because he's having an affair with Cynthia, especially considering what she had overheard. And so she confronts him about that, and he's like, oh my God, no, it's not Cynthia. And he like wants her to believe that he is cheating, but not with Cynthia, and because the alternative is telling her the truth that he planned to get their only child kidnapped. So we also find out that Cynthia and her husband Graham have a camera in their backyard for Cynthia to take men to, do things with, and then watch later with Graham, because it gets it gets Graham off, and she just really loves to be intimate with other men. But in that camera's existence, it managed to pick up on Marco stealing the baby. And now, Marco is convinced, after finding out that his guy is a friend of Anne's father's, that her dad has something to do with Cora's disappearance. Not disappearance, but lack of reappearance. But anyway, I'm gonna jump ahead a bunch because a lot happens that is too complex for me to get into right now. Anne now knows that Marco is the one who kidnapped Cora, and that went over not super well. They go to her parents' house. They have a conversation. Her dad's like, Anne, no, I didn't. Of course I wouldn't. She's my granddaughter, and I love you, and I love her, and Marco's a delinquent, and we hate him. And Marco's like, dude, you set this whole thing up, so like, because Marco had gone to him for money and he said no, and so he was like, oh, he's stuck in between a rock and a hard place. And then this guy randomly out of nowhere was like, hey, you should kidnap your daughter for money and I'll help you do it and we can split it and it'll be perfect. And Marco was like, okay, that sounds good. But it was all a setup. Anne decides that she's staying at her parents' house because she just can't trust Marco, and Marco is dead to her. And so in the morning, she wakes up really early. She sees her dad walking towards like the lake through the woods, and so, suspicious, she follows. Turns out her dad was managed to secure Cora from the kidnappers, and so she got her baby back and everything was fine. But then the wife was a little perturbed by her husband's behavior and was convinced that he was cheating on her. Plot twist number 5, Anne's dad was having an affair on Anne's mother with Anne's neighbor Cynthia. And it turns out that Anne's dad wanted the money because he himself is poor. The mom is the one who has all the money. And so he was going to set up this kidnapping so that he could get the money and look like the hero and make Anne divorce Marco and still get all the money so that he could then run away with Cynthia and live happily ever after. But Anne's mom said no. She calls the police. And she reports what she thinks has happened. And police show up and then they arrest Anne's dad. So Anne and Marco get to have Cora back and they go home happily ever after until Anne goes to visit her neighbor Cynthia. And she says oh yeah, I got Cora back. And Cynthia's like, that's so great. I'm so happy for you. And she's like, yeah, and my dad's in prison. And she's like, yeah, I heard that. That's so unfortunate. And long story short, Anne kills Cynthia. Because, I forgot to say this, but Anne has had a history with not bipolar, maybe bipolar. I can't remember. She has an issue where she dissociates for a hot minute sometimes and gets all crazy violent. And it happened once in high school, and so it happened again. And the last line, the last little bit is Marco going, Anne, what have you done? And she goes, I don't know. I don't remember. And that, my friends, leads us to the breakdown. Cover design is going to get a 2 for me because I get this is most likely Anne that's silhouetted and she goes a little AWOL and whatnot. But I just feel like there could have been a better cover. I like it aesthetically, looking at it, that's what drew me to the book, but I don't feel after reading it that there's much of a significance to it. Characters are also going to be a 2 for me because none of them feel really developed. Anne is relatable in the sense that she's insecure because she's fat after being pregnant, and I've never been pregnant, but I feel Marco's handsome but also still not really developed. I don't even feel bad for him for being tricked into kidnapping his daughter, which I feel is important for the story, but I'm just not. The only character I really, really like is Razbach or Razbach, whatever. Plot is a 3.5 because I like the concept of this story. As a mystery, I feel you get told the big piece of the puzzle in the middle, which is an odd choice. Ending is a 4. I love that the baby comes back because I've got the soft spot for babies. I'm one of those people. And so I love that the baby's alive and not dead. She kills Cynthia, which is pretty dope. So a 4. And the book drop is going to be a 2.5 because there are so many. And I know this is a mystery thriller, but there are too many. There's the finding out Marco originally did it, finding that the guy who helps Marco was a friend of the dad's, finding out that Cynthia has the tape, and finding out that the dad planned the whole thing with the guy, and also that he's having an affair with Cynthia and set that up, and then the mom sells him out, and then Anne. There are so many book drops, which gives The Couple Next Door a 2.8 out of 5. I will say this though, it was a really fast read because it was entertaining just coming from my categories standpoint. It just doesn't add up. And so I would recommend it, ironically, but I would recommend it. So until next time, I'm sorry for my appearance today. I'm a hot mess. But know that I love you guys and I can't wait till the next Boozy Bookworm. Until then.